Which is better, the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G or the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G? Well, in this video, we're going to find out. Now, the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G was recently launched in September of 2022, whereas the Galaxy A53 5G was launched earlier this year in March of 2022. Now, both of these phones are being offered factory unlocked directly by Samsung, and you can also get them at a variety of different US carriers. And I know, at least for the A53 5G, this phone has been very popular, and I am expecting the A23 5G to be popular as well. Both of these phones offer a lot of value considering that they are affordable Android devices. Now, to see the most up-to-date pricing and availability for either of these two devices, definitely take a look at the various links in the video description, as that does tend to change as time goes on. And one thing's for sure, I know that the carriers, they are offering some really great promotions and discounts on these devices, and in some situations, you might even be able to switch in from another carrier and then get either of these phones for free. I know at least at Metro by T-Mobile, they were offering the A23 5G for free, at least for a little bit of time. And again, it really depends on when you're watching this video for which deals are available, but regardless, definitely take a look. Now with the Galaxy A23 5G, we have a 6.6-inch display compared to a slightly smaller 6.5-inch display with the Galaxy A53 5G. Now when holding the two phones up side by side, the A53 5G is the smaller device of the two. Now a big reason why that is because this phone has way smaller bezels. With the A23 5G on the other hand, we do have that water drop notch up top and then a thicker bottom bezel. And then another difference is that with the A53 5G, we do have a hole punch for the front-facing camera. Now, another difference is the display technology that's being used with these two devices. So with the A23 5G, we have a PLS LCD display compared to a Super AMOLED display with the A53 5G. So without a doubt, with the A53 5G, we are getting a way better looking display, and also since it is Super AMOLED, we have excellent viewing angles as well. That being said though, the A23 5G does still have a really nice looking display, and both of these phones do feature 120Hz refresh rates. So we're getting a really smooth experience when navigating around either of these two devices, and that's definitely a nice premium touch. Now with both phones, the displays are 1080p, however the PPI is slightly different. We have 400 as the PPI for the A23 5G, compared to 405 for the A53 5G, and then both devices do feature 20:9 aspect ratios, so a more narrow but taller form factor. And then finally, with the A23 5G, we have an 82.5% screen-to-body ratio, compared to a better 85.4% screen-to-body ratio with the A53 5G. And a big part of why that is due to the smaller bezels here with the A53. So with both phones, we do have front-facing cameras. However, with the A23 5G, it's 8 megapixels compared to 32 megapixels for the front-facing camera with the A53 5G. We also have different storage configurations as well. In the US at least, the A23 5G is offered with 64 gigabytes, whereas we have 128 gigabytes with the A53 5G. So I definitely do appreciate that with the A53 5G, we are getting double the amount of internal storage, but it is also nice that both phones do offer microSD card expansion. So if you want to offload photos and videos, for example, to free up some internal space, you do have that ability. Now, neither of these two devices feature wireless charging, which is a bit unfortunate, but they do both feature fingerprint sensors. However, the implementation is a bit different. So with the A23 5G, the fingerprint sensor is built into the power button, so we'll give that a try right now. So very fast and accurate. And then with the A53 5G, the fingerprint sensor is built into the display. So this also works really well. It's just a different implementation. So I'm definitely curious to know in the comment section below. Let me know, do you prefer to have the fingerprint sensor on the power button or built into the display itself? Now both of these phones also feature face unlock, so I do appreciate that we have multiple methods for accessing them. Now with both devices, we do have quad camera setups. However, there are some pretty major differences. Now with the A23 5G, we have a 50 megapixel main camera, a 5 megapixel ultra wide angle camera that can capture images at up to 123 degrees. We have a 2 megapixel macro camera and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. And then with the A53 5G, of these four cameras, they all offer the same abilities, but we have higher megapixel counts. So for example, the main camera is 64 megapixels, the ultra wide camera is 12 megapixels, we have a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera, and a 5 megapixel macro camera. So it is pretty interesting that we can technically do all the same things with these various cameras, but you're getting way clearer, better looking photos and videos with the A53 5G in comparison. Now here's how the camera apps look with both devices. I do have the main camera selected right now, and then with both phones, we can switch over to the ultra wide angle cameras to fit a lot more content into the frame. Then from there, we can go to the More tab to access the macro cameras. So with the macro cameras, you can get very close up and have things be in really good detail. We can then head out of there and then go over to portrait mode to get those blurred out backgrounds that I know that everybody's a big fan of. We could also flip around to the front facing cameras on both devices and take portrait selfies. We also have the ability to crop out a little bit for a group selfie. And then finally, you can take standard front-facing photos as well. So with both of these phones, you can take really great-looking images, that's for sure, but without a doubt, the A53 5G does have the better cameras of the two. Now to see a variety of different photo and video samples from these devices, definitely take a look at the individual reviews for both. And another big difference too with these phones is that with the A23 5G, video recording is limited at just 1080p, whereas the A53 5G does support 4K video recording for both the front and rear cameras. Now, as far as RAM and processor go, both of these devices are pretty capable for what they are. However, without a doubt, the A53 5G is the better performing device of the two. Now, with the A23 5G, we have 4 gigabytes of RAM paired up with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 695 5G processor, whereas with the Galaxy A53 5G, we have 6 gigabytes of RAM with the Samsung Exynos 1280 processor. So with both of those processors, we do have 5G connectivity, as the names of the phones do imply. So in 2022, I think you can still get away with not having a 5G phone, but at the same time, if you're going to go through all the effort of buying a brand new device, you might as well get one that is compatible with your carrier's latest and greatest network. Now, I did run a Geekbench 5 benchmark test with both of these devices, and I'll show you the scores from those tests right now. But essentially, here are the scores right here. The A53 5G is better with the single core, but interestingly enough, the A23 5G is higher here with the multi-core. Now, from my experience of using both phones, I do feel like the A53 5G is definitely the faster phone of the two, but it is pretty interesting how the benchmark scores here are actually pretty competitive. Now, both of these phones do feature 5,000 milliamp hour internal batteries, so definitely expect to get very good battery life, at least a full day with either of these two phones. They both feature Android 12 running Samsung's One UI 4.1, and they also both feature NFC. However, there are two major differences. With the A53 5G, we do get IP67 dust and water resistance, which means that you can take this phone underwater for up to 1 meter for up to 30 minutes. And the A53 5G does have stereo speakers compared to the A23 5G that only has one speaker. So when you're watching a video or listening to music, with the A53 5G, you are getting audio coming out of both the main speaker and the earpiece at the same time, whereas with the A23 5G, the audio just comes out of the main speaker. But let's now take a closer look at the hardware of these two phones. Taking a look at the left side of both. On the A23 5G, we have the slot for the microSD card and SIM card. And then with the A53 5G, we have nothing. Then on the right side of the two phones, both phones have volume up and down. And then both phones do have the power buttons, but with the A23 5G, the power button does double as the fingerprint sensor. Then up top here, with both phones, we do have noise canceling microphones. And then on the bottom of the two phones, with the A23 5G, we have the 3.5mm headphone jack, microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and we have the speaker. Whereas with the A53 5G, we have the slot for the microSD card and SIM card, microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and we have the speaker. But with the A53 5G, there is no headphone jack to be found anywhere here on the device. So of these two phones, if you are looking to use your wired headphones, then the A23 5G will definitely provide the better experience of the two. Now, you can still use wired headphones with the A53 5G, but you will have to find some sort of adapter to plug into the USB-C port. And then taking a look at the backside of the two devices, overall a pretty similar layout and setup here. However, I do prefer the materials that we're getting with the A53 5G, but in general, things are nearly the same. I would recommend getting a case for either of these two phones since they are made completely out of plastic. So in conclusion, hopefully this video gave you a better idea of the differences and similarities between these two devices. And if you're considering buying either of them, this makes your buying decision a little bit easier. But in general, I think they're both great options. Clearly, the A53 5G is slightly upmarket compared to the A23 5G, but hopefully by seeing the various differences, you can decide if it's worth paying more for the A53 5G instead. I would say in general, it just depends on what deals are being offered. For example, if you can get the A23 5G for free, while the A53 5G might be several $100s, then I would say go for the A23 5G instead. But if the phones end up being kind of the same price, maybe the A53 5G is on sale, but there's no sale running for the A23 5G, then I can see where it's especially worth it to go for the A53 5G instead. But hopefully this helped. Hopefully you liked the video. Make sure to sub to the channel. But this is Kevin here, and I will see you in the next one.